Welcome to First Dates with Old Mates, a show where I get to know people better. And like any date, we don't know if we'll be asking for the check before dessert arrives or going for a long, lingering walk afterwards. Today's guest is Chris. Chris, let's start with how you pronounce your last name and what is the origin.
So the pronunciation of my last name, despite popular belief, is Kalandadse. It's much more simple than people give it credit for. Uh, it's from Georgia, Eastern Europe.
Oh, nice. I just,
Hmm.
every time I look at it, I go, Calendar Daddies. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in my
Mm-hmm.
phone, just Chris K.
Calendars, yeah, Kalandadze. There's a lot, but Kalandadze is the technically correct one.
Beautiful. All right. Tell me about yourself.
I am annoyingly half an inch under 6 foot. I weigh about myself. Let's see. I'm a passionate follower and pursuer of the creative arts. Though my burgeoning career in project management, sort of counter to that at the moment. But hopefully, I can head it back in the right direction.
Nice. What are the
Uh,
creative arts?
Acting, directing, screenwriting, film and TV.
Nice, nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice. What's your average day look like?
So I've only just started working from home. So my average day is waking up all of half an hour before work starts, and having breakfast and sitting down and wondering when I have to turn my webcam on and how much time I've got for a shower.
And are you pants or pantsless on your webcams?
I am pants. I am very casual pants, sometimes pajama pants, sometimes tracky pants.
Yeah.
But no, I am pants in this house.
Do you feel
Um,
like you're dressed for work even though you're not dressed for work? Like, are you mentally in the right
uh,
spot without wearing work
well,
attire?
it was weird. The first week, I actually wore shirts. Still wore track pants, but wore shirts because I just wasn't sure on the protocol of working from home and being in
Yep.
like a professional environment. That's all stopped now. Now it's just t-shirts and hoodies.
T-shirts,
Um,
hoodies as well.
yeah, yeah. I've yet to be pulled up on any of it. So, um, but yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see what when we can go back into the office. See how that feels.
Now, you started a new job whilst during lockdown. Are you nervous to go back into the office? Like starting a new
No,
job?
super excited. There's so much I don't know about this job that would be so much easier to learn if the person I needed to talk to was right next to me, as opposed to a digital phone call away and whatnot. So no, very excited to go back into the office when we can. Commute will be a bitch, but everything else will be great.
Oh, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And now, for the time that I've known you, you've been a very positive person. Positive attitude, positive outlook on life. Where do you think that comes from?
Uh, I don't know. Geez, that's a good question. My upbringing, I guess. A nurturing, loving environment that I was raised in. I don't know. I do try to keep as you know, a positive spin on things, especially around people. Like I don't know. I like anyone will have down moments and not so great times, but especially being around friends and loved ones, it's better to try and keep things lighter. And I'm also super non-confrontational, so that's probably a large part of it.
Ah,
Um, if I keep everyone happy and placated, then there's no confrontation. Much to the chagrin of my Italian fiance in the other room here, who loves a good blowout and a good yelling match, which I don't give her.
oh, I bet she hates that.
Yeah, yeah, she's not a fan of my passive aggressiveness.
Do you think the non-confrontationalist comes from your upbringing as well?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Definitely comes from dad, who's a pushover. Uh, it's very easy to get things past dad. Uh, I'm only saying this, of course, because once you hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm sure he'll start listening in. So I can say it now and get away with it.
I plan to send it to him straight away.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
that's not a
You've got
problem.
his Instagram handle and whatnot.
Yeah, all over it,
Yeah.
all over it. I'll teach him how to use YouTube. It'll be fine. And speaking about your family, where are your parents from?
So the surname is Dad's. Dad's parents are Georgian and Ukrainian. Their dad was born here. His sister was born overseas. His dad got caught up in World War II, and his mum. The war ended, and they decided it was time to get out of Dodge. So they lined up in the queue for Argentina, which was, I think the story goes, the shortest line or the first line that they saw, one of the two. They got to the front of that queue, and Argentina denied them access because Nan was all of 4'6", I think, at her tallest. And they said she was too short for entry into Argentina. So the next one across was Australia.
Are you joking, or is that?
No, that's legit.
That's legit. It's like a roller coaster. Yeah. She's too short to go.
She's too short to ride this ride. Please go find the merry-go-round. The merry-go-round being Australia. So yeah, so they came and settled here and never looked back. So much so that I don't know anyone in the Ukraine or Georgia. We have no contact. We have relations over there for sure, but I've never met or spoken to any of them. Yeah. And then Mum's American. So she's full-blooded. No, she hates being called a Yank because she's not Yankee, but she's full-blooded American. Hails from Chicago, Chi-Town, which I've visited many, many times, and it's beautiful, and I love it. Have you ever been?
I have not. No, I did California, San Francisco, New York, but that was it.
They're three pretty good ones.
Yeah.
San Fran's amazing.
I was only there for a day, like literally a day. It was a stopover flight. I was just like on the way.
Oh, gutting.
Yeah, but
it's a good stopover though. Did you get out of the airport?
No, like 3 or 4 blocks out of the airport, but it wasn't.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah,
we just went for walks. Yeah.
New York though.
New York was amazing. Absolutely loved it.
It's funny when you hear a descriptor of a town and then you get there, and it of course being the city that never sleeps, and you get there and you're like, yeah, it just never stops.
No,
it actually never stops. It's insane. You walk through Melbourne at 3 a.m. and you're like, this is pretty quiet if it's like a Wednesday night. It just doesn't matter in New York.
No, it did not matter. We found a bar probably maybe 10-15 minute walk from our hostel, and an Aussie guy owned it, and we were all only 19 at the time, but we were going in and drinking and tipping him, and we were like there for a while. I think we were there for 2 weeks, and we went there nearly every night because he was literally the only place we could get in and drink.
Yeah. Good. Oh, of course, because you're 19, America's 21. Yeah, nice. Jeez, so he just let that slide?
Yeah, well, he was Australian, we were Australian. Pretty
good.
Yeah. We were pretty happy. He never actually asked us for ID, which was awesome.
Yeah, good bloke.
Yeah, very good
bloke.
Very good bloke. Now, have you been to Ukraine or Georgia?
No. I had inklings too. So in my early to mid 20s, I did a lot of travel. And that was one of the ones on my to-do list. But I approached my dad and my auntie, who I call my tiocha, and asked that and pitched the idea to them. And they both pretty much said I shouldn't go. At least wait for things to settle down. It's just like, I don't know, it's such a tumultuous region. Yeah. They're constantly being overlooked by Russia. Ukraine has its whole laundry list of problems with Russia at the moment. And then corruption in the government and the police, and it's just, I don't know. So I will get there one day, but I think it'll be the point where I will constantly wait for it to quieten down and realize it never will, and then just do the trip.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's when I'll get there.
There's always going to be places like that are dangerous, and you've got to toss up whether it's worth going or not. That's the hard thing.
Yeah. I have been to Russia though, and I've been to the town that my nan was sewing sheets in at the end of World War II before she got out. Wolfratshausen, which is pretty cool. Germany, pardon me. That was pretty cool. This tiny town in the middle of nowhere that would mean nothing to anyone, but something to us, I guess. Yeah. She, her sister knew someone on the German side who managed to get them switched from a camp to a factory. So as opposed to being in a labor camp, they were just in a factory and had to, I'm pretty sure it was sheet sewing or some ridiculous. They were in a textile factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a much better deal than
Yeah. Yeah, going
than
to
the
war?
alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Where else have you
Yeah.
traveled to?
So the States quite extensively. I often joke, but sometimes it's not a joke, that I've done more of the States than Americans have. Though there are many foreigners who've done more of Australia than I have. So, you know,
Point.
Canada. So I spent, I don't know if I've told, yeah, you must have known. I spent a year living in Canada, in Vancouver on the West Coast. New Zealand, I've done a few times. Lauren and I just took our 5th trip there this year. Yeah. Oh my God, that was this year. Wow. COVID, times in COVID, they just, it's all distorted and warped. Hey,
You don't know what year it is.
it's no. I've done the Trans-Siberian Railway, which is the railway that goes from Beijing to St. Petersburg in Russia. So it passes through Mongolia.
Is it actual railroad? Like, is it on a train?
It's an actual railroad.
Cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. Many stories came out of that. It was fun. I did that solo, so I joined up with a tour group whom I knew no one of, and made some friends out of it.
What was that like?
None of whom I talk to anymore.
What was it like? How'd you feel going into that?
It was pretty confronting. So that was my. I was spending 6 months in the States, just sort of living there. I had every intention of getting a job, and then had enough money to just coast by and not worry about that. But it was sort of a month or two into that, and I realized first world countries are really fun to travel to, but boy, they're boring. And I just wanted something different and sort of challenging. And so I figured China, Mongolia, and Russia are pretty
different.
I mean, they're sort of more challenging, but they're kind of safer than traveling to, say, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
So they were a good middle ground for me and where I was at.
You're
so
white.
Yeah.
It's a good middle ground for someone that's
Yeah.
You can say it. That's fine.
This is true. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't ever the enemy in any of those countries, especially being Australian.
Yeah. Do you ever feel unsafe?
Only in Russia, which is really hard because I rep Russia everywhere I go. Whenever travel stories come up, I am a very big proponent of Russian tourism.
Really?
I think it's a beautiful country, like the architecture and the landscape. Well, just not the government buildings. The people are the most kind-hearted people. They don't know a lick of English, but they'll lay their jacket down on a puddle for you if you're a tourist. They're really sweet. The only thing is it is everywhere is dodgy. There is no like safe part of Moscow or St. Petersburg. It's just you got to watch your pockets everywhere. I went out drinking with the Italian friend I made on this tour group, and we were in Moscow and we went somewhere. I don't know where. We crossed lanes of traffic and we wound up at this bar. I don't know where we were, but it pushed on past midnight, and I said, Elio, I'm going. I'm drunk enough. I'm pretty sure I know the way. Like, I'm going to go. And he's like, no, I'm going to party. So I left him and found out the next day that he was inches away from entering a building that he probably wouldn't have come out of again, because he followed 2 beautiful girls into a car and then found 4 muscly dudes on the other side of the car who were like, hey, let's go, mate. So it's those sort of stories, and you hear them from all around the world, right? You ask anyone who's traveled and they're like, yeah, we went past the dodgy part of town.
Yeah.
Only thing with Russia is it just always felt dodgy. Like if you were just there at the wrong hour.
Do you think it felt that way because you're a foreigner? Like, do the locals feel the same?
No, for sure. It wasn't like I traveled through Italy with my sister back in 2010, I think. And we were going to go to Napoli. And we were boarding the train in Rome, and we'd met some locals in Rome, and they told us to skip Napoli and go through to Sorrento because it's more beautiful and more safe. So like in that instance, I would say the locals were like, yeah, Napoli's like, it gets really rough after like close of business. It gets a bit rough and tumble. But in Russia, no, I think the locals were like untouched. It was purely like pick off the tourist sort of vibe.
Yeah.
You know,
you kind of see
the cashed up tourists.
It's represented like that, so
yeah.
I guess it's not all false.
No, they that one they hit the nail on the head.
And I saw a photo of you riding camels. Where was that?
That was in Egypt or Jordan? That would have been in Egypt. Egypt with my partner Lauren.
What year did you
So
go
that
there?
was, hey,
What year was that?
2019, 2018, 2018, start of 2018, January. We did Egypt, Jordan, and Morocco. All because we'd been dating for 2 years by then. One of those years I'd been living in Vancouver. So our first year was long distance. So we'd really been dating for a year, in person, under the same roof. And I told Lauren I wanted to travel. Similar to the Russia trip, I said, I'm sort of done with first world countries for a bit and need a break. And there was news several years before we went, only like 2 or 3, that the president of Egypt wanted to close off the pyramids to tourists because of the damage that was being done.
Oh.
Whether it was as noble a sort of reasoning as that, or whether he just wanted to hoard them to himself, we don't know. But it scared me enough to say, like, let's see these before we can't. And so we did.
Seems like a weird thing because that would bring them in a lot of money from tourism.
Yeah, a lot of money. Yeah. So not like shut them off completely, but in terms of walking inside the larger of the 3. Yeah. He wanted to stop, but I don't know, it's these countries that don't realize tourism is such a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Really have to learn quick.
Did you feel unsafe in Egypt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Drive through, we were with a tour group. We couldn't get into Egypt any other way. You had to be with a tour group. And we drove through, every checkpoint we drove through had armed guards with assault rifles, just sort of like at the ready, not slung over their shoulder and not like resting up by the hut. They were like ready to go.
Wow.
And it was all the markets were, if you stayed in like the main central part, you were fine, but it was really easy. And a few times we'd wander out sort of a street or 2 past where we should have been and had to backtrack really quick because it's similar. It's like you're just a target, right? You've got a big target on your back when you're white and Western and are traveling.
Are you aware of that the whole time that you're there?
No, God no. We got to the pyramids and it was all the wonder of the pyramid took away from the guy trying to sell us bandanas for much too much a price. It's really easy to put that sort of thing aside and not have to worry about it. And it's so heavily populated that no one really tries anything other than to scam you out of your money. That we saw anyway. But no, they're only, there were small parts. Like I said, you wander a street too far and you suddenly realize you're in a bad neck of the woods.
Yeah, but you get the same thing.
To be fair, exactly. Yeah, you beat me to it. To be fair, I've done that in Melbourne, so.
Where was your favorite place?
Of everywhere I've traveled?
Yeah. And why?
I'd probably say Russia. It was getting into Russia. I mean, it'd be either Russia or Egypt. Egypt for its sort of like, the ancientness of it all. You walk in and the sand that you kick up from under your feet, is like 12,000 years old. It's just everything is old. And it was more than I expected. People have said it and I thought I went in with the expectations set correctly of everything is old and larger than you think and incredible. And you get there and it's just jaw dropping. Like I don't think we picked our jaws up off the floor the entire trip. But Russia was all that, but just not expected at all. I was expecting the Soviet era buildings of like gray concrete. Yeah. Like that's it. It's just you get into like the Red Square or you go see the Kremlin and it's not that at all. It's like, I don't know if you've seen like St. Basil's Cathedral with the round like columns with the candy cane tops on top. It's just stunning. Either of those two, I would say. It's really hard for me to pick. Yeah, I'm dying to take Lauren back there. And was learning Russian for a short while, maybe a year, I think, maybe half a year I spent learning Russian. And then like any language you never get the chance to actually use, it just sort of went away.
Yeah.
You don't have a reason to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Do you, when you go to these different countries, do you try to pick up words? Like, are you learning words before you go there, like basics?
We told each other we would, and I always say I'll try and learn something before I go. I never do, never have.
Yeah.
But being there for sure. Being there, I'll learn thank you and hello and you're welcome and the such. And forget it the moment I hit back into Australia.
On the plane back, gone.
It's already gone. Yeah, yeah. Have you? Do you know a second language?
No, no.
Okay. Okay.
No, I wish I did.
No.
And now that I have kids, I realized I had so much time that I could have learned a second language. Like now's the
Yeah.
time to do it because you don't realize how much free time that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd tell
Well,
everyone
now's the
that.
time. Now's the time for your kids to learn, right? I mean, maybe not Charlie, but
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, maybe. Well, Tan's Croatian. So
is she?
so she speaks Croatian, like fluently. And there's some
Ah,
words like when Evie was a baby and we wanted her to sit, I'd say chichi, which is sit.
mhm.
Or like if we
Yeah.
wanted to lay down, I say leggy, which is lay down. So when Evie was learning as a kid, I've been picking up
Mm.
words as well. So it makes it easier because I'm
Yeah.
saying these words at home. But
Yeah.
if I'm at Tan's parents' house and they're talking, I can pick up words and I'll understand what they're saying. Like if they
Yeah.
want me to
You get
do
the gist
something
of
for
it.
them and it's tomorrow or next week or something, I get the
Mhm.
gist of what they're talking about and I can go,
Mhm.
I I love answering them like when they before Tan translates it to me in English. Like if they're
Yeah.
speaking Croatian to each other, and I'll be like, yeah, no problem, I'll do that tomorrow, and they'll both be like, okay, he knows too much. It's my favorite thing to do. I love it. I love it.
That's terrific. Will you pass Croatian on to your girls?
Yeah, definitely,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
I think so. Tan wants to, and I want to. I regret not learning a language. Like
Mhm.
primary school, we learnt German. I just had no
You learned
interest.
German at primary school.
Yeah, yeah,
That's okay. Sure.
yeah.
If
Well,
anyone should have been learning German.
yeah. But and I can't remember any of that. But I had no interest. I was like, when am I ever going
Yeah.
to need German? But I understand
Yeah,
now
and
it's
that's
about developing your brain. It's got nothing to do
Mhm.
with going to Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Oh.
Yeah, for sure. It's also, I mean, and a large part of it for me and the desire to pick up a second language is also that thing of once you've traveled enough, you feel, I feel a little bit like a righteous prick going to other countries and expecting them to speak English.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like,
Yeah.
I got one language and I'm asking you to do at least two.
Yeah, that's what I hate to
Yeah.
generalize, but it's what a lot of like Westerners do. They just
Mhm.
you should know English
Yeah.
because
It's,
most people
yeah, it's
speak
like
English.
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. It is. So long distance relationship.
Ooh.
Were you together a year and then you went and spent a year in Canada?
No, I worked with Lauren at JB, as you may know. Persistently tried to ask her out, as you may not know, and was rebuffed consistently.
Oh, she's got a good taste, so I understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until a month before I left for the States in December with my best mate, and so I pitched it. I pitched it all to Lauren and said, "This is it. This is me. This is what I want." And then I capped it off with also, I'm living in Vancouver next year for a year, so you should know that. So she said no.
Yeah, understandably. Yeah.
She said, I don't want to pursue a relationship with someone who's leaving the country. I said, that's fair. So we didn't. And then we ended up speaking, every day over Facebook or whatever for all of December and then most of Jan before I broached the subject and said, let's call this what it is. So we dated remotely for a year.
So you started
which
the
was
relationship long distance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a dumb thing to do.
I am not judging it at all. Maybe
But we made it work. I came back home. Dad had a medical emergency from which he has recovered and is fine. But I came home. That was our first date, was on a medical emergency trip back home.
Oh, lovely.
And then she came up mid-year for her birthday and we spent some time in the States and then in Canada. Introduced her to Tom, whom I was traveling with. And then there was a surprise trip 3/4 of the way through the year, I think it was, that I didn't know she was there. There's a video of it somewhere. And it was hands down one of the weirdest experiences I've had, because I spent 8 to 9 months of the last year being in contact with one person day in, day out. I would get home to wherever home was at that time, and it would be Tom in the house and me.
Yeah.
We'd make dinner, and that would be it. And we'd watch a movie, whatever. And then Lauren arrived. Tom had helped her plan it all, and she hid in my bed with the sheets over her head. And I came home at like 9 o'clock or 10 or whatever after work and a couple of drinks. And walked in the door, and Tom like lured me into the room, and then she jumped out of the bed and surprised me. And it was the weirdest feeling of, I just assumed there were two Toms because Tom was ever the only other person in the building ever. And so I looked at her and fully recognized it was Lauren, but placed like the Tom. It's like we were playing celebrity heads, and it just placed a Tom name on her there, and then looked back to Tom and looked at it. It was it was alarming to say the least, but then amazing.
How are you feeling when it happened?
Sorry?
How'd you feel when it happened?
Overjoyed, over the moon. Yeah. It was a very teary moment. It was good.
Lucky you weren't bringing some other girl home at the time.
Well, so her grandfather, her nunu, she pitched the idea to him, and he said no. He said, you can't do that. You don't know what he'll be doing over there. You can't just like invade his privacy. And it's such a tell of that generation. Yeah. Yeah. He thinks I was much more sexually active than I was. But she told me that later on. She said he didn't think I should do this just in case I walked in on you with another woman, which apparently I had every right to do.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then so 2016 got back in December, and we have been non-long distance ever since.
Oh.
Yeah.
And recently engaged?
I mean, recently is a very subjective term because it was 2019 when I popped the question, and it is now 2021. So to us, that is a lifetime ago. I mean, and since then we've bought our first house, we've bought a dog and a cat, and we're looking at getting a new car soon. So it's all like a lifetime has happened in between. Well, not a lifetime, but a sizable chunk has happened. But yeah, recently engaged.
Have you got a date for the wedding, or an approximate date for the wedding?
Yeah, May next year. So it's very short notice, with it being the end of September, starting October. But them's the breaks. We've tried to plan this a couple of times with COVID circling the waters, and it just planning long distance long term is fraught with danger. So we're going to try and do it short and sweet and just get it across the line.
Yeah, especially if you've got family around the country or in other countries, or people you want to come visit.
Yeah. Well, the first plan was to go to New Zealand and get married, as it's one of our top countries for both of us. And that quickly fizzled and died because it's, it'd take one cancelled trip, and then we've got 50 guests who need to rebook annual leave, and we need to postpone everything. It just was too much.
I thought it was just going to like you guys, maybe like mum, dad, sisters, brothers, and a best friend, and just go to New Zealand.
Yeah, that was on the cards. Well, that was on the cards for Tasmania. We thought about doing that in Tassie, getting 10 nearest and dearest.
Yeah, take the boat down.
Yeah, and make a thing of it. But it's hard to do with an Italian side.
Yeah,
and
as much 900 to 1,000 pounds.
we've kept it down. We've kept it down to 100. But that was a struggle. Weirdly, a struggle on both our sides. But I don't know. I mean, your wedding would have been. What did you do for your wedding?
We're not married.
You're not married.
Engaged.
That's right. Yeah. How long have you been engaged for?
Oh, a long time. 5-6 years.
With plans to get married?
We wanted to get married this year, but COVID and everything else. And at the start of the year, we were talking about it, and it wasn't going to happen. And then with Charlotte and everything. So I think once Charlotte gets a little bit older, and we'll work it out. It's definitely something we want to do. It's hard, like with the WOG background that Tan has in such a large amount of people.
which is why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, I would much prefer to just very small. Like I'd love just like 50 people at like a
Mhm.
little beach pub somewhere. Go down to the beach, do a
Amazing.
little ceremony, come back up,
Yep.
done, start drinking for the
And
rest
you're in
of
the
the
pub.
day, eat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
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 Like I don't
That
want
was.
a big sit down. You know what I hate at weddings? Where there's
Mm.
like the bridal table and it's at the front.
Mhm.
It's like really one long table and you guys all
Yeah.
sit on it. I hate that
Yeah.
for some reason.
And you're just like an audience for everyone to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a spectacle. Yeah.
Everyone tells me they hate their wedding day because they don't get to eat and they feel like they're obliged to talk to all these people. I prefer to just
Mhm.
have no tables, all finger food and drinks, and
Mhm.
people just have fun and mingle.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
We couldn't agree more. Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Whether everyone agrees that is the problem.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. The weird thing we're running into is how much of a trade-off it is between the wedding we want and the wedding our guests want to be at.
Yeah, and it
We
shouldn't be
from
like that. It should be about
no
you and your
from
day.
we both agree. We're like, this is our wedding. We're running it our way. If you don't want to come, you don't have to come.
Yeah.
But all of the family that we've spoken to, they've all brought in this thing of like, oh, but you need this because, you know, people kind of expect it, or like they'd like that. You should do that for your guests. And it's like, well, our guests aren't getting married, are they?
But the bonus of lots of people at your wedding is most people give money, especially when they're Italian family. You're going to come off all right.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Like I know from a Croatian wedding, there's
Oh
when
God.
you walk through the door, there's it's rosemary, and I can't remember what it is, but it's just like 2 twigs of rosemary with some ribbon around it, and you pay a note for that, whether it's 5 or 50. You just put a note in, and
That's
you get
right.
one. So you get
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and then you do a dance with the bride where every
You
man
have to
that's there
pay
puts
for.
money as an envelope or puts money on it,
Yeah,
attaches it to a
yeah.
dress, and you pay for that. And then most people give you money for the wedding too.
Mhm.
So that's what happened at our engagement. It pretty much paid for itself. So we didn't mind inviting more people because
Yeah,
it
they
paid for
pay.
itself.
Yeah,
You know, we didn't have
yeah.
much afterwards, but we
And that
went
way,
out of
and
pocket a lot.
yeah, and it's easy to see it as like, oh, well, then you're doing it for like a financial gain, but you're not. It just means you can have more people there.
Yeah.
It means you can splurge for like the bigger venue, and you just have a bigger party. Yeah, for sure.
It should be just a fun party that all your friends want to go to.
God, it should. And it should be so much cheaper than it is.
You should just invite everyone to your house. It's just like we're just having a house party. Bam, wedding.
Yeah. In the early days, we thought about how many gambits can we run to try and pull the wool and convince people that this is just a party, or it's just a get together, or it's hard to do. They know what designs and such are go along with weddings. They're onto it.
Yeah, damn it. Yeah, could you just dress up really, really nicely, please, and make sure the whole
really
family's there?
It's really hard to get invites that don't have the word wedding on them, but also invite you to a wedding.
A wedding-like ceremony you're invited to. This episode of First Dates with Old Mates is sponsored by Aeon Craft. aeoncraft.com.au has handcrafted dice, rolling trays, storage tins, and gaming apparel. All of your tabletop gaming needs. Use discount code OLDMATES at the checkout and you'll get 10% off apparel. That's a discount code OLDMATES, all one word, for 10% off apparel at aeoncraft.com.au. So I want to talk about your acting and writing.
Yeah, okay.
So tell me about
it. The last 3 years has been two. The last 2 years has been a push through very muddy waters. Muddy waters isn't the right term. It's been slow going, and there's two factors that I attribute this to. And one is COVID, of course, but there's only so much I can pin on COVID. The other is just my lack of motivation or enthusiasm, which, I mean, I don't know. We can attribute to being locked up in a house, sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, the end goal for sure started off as acting. And I was like, that's it. That's the only thing I could see me doing that I would enjoy for the rest of my life.
It's a big goal.
It's right. It's huge. By the time I'd sort of come around to that, I'd tried my hand at, I'd say, a lot of things. You know, I don't know, a dozen different types of jobs. And of this small amount of acting work I'd had, the joy and the ease at which I sort of fell into it and the rush I got from it was above all else. I've done some training at certain institutes through Melbourne, and one in Chicago, believe it or not. And that sort of bolsters my enthusiasm for a while, and then it sort of wanes, and I'm wondering of like, do I want to do this? Like, it's such a hustle. Acting is, I mean, anything in the arts, just the arts in general. If you want to make a career out of it, it is a, 9 to 9, 7 days a week hustle, or even longer. But then recently, actually, while I was in Vancouver, turned my hand to screenwriting, wrote a short film that then decided would be a play instead, and put that on for the Fringe Fest here in Melbourne.
Oh, nice.
So that was 2018. So that was fun, and that brought everything back of how amazing it is to be in the arts, and that's like the part of my brain that fires the most happily, and the thing that I sink into the easiest and the best. And so that's sort of what I want to pursue. So since then, I've been trying to keep up the writing, try and get some projects ready to pitch to either get grants for, pitch to a producer, and sort of keep that ball rolling and moving as much as I can.
What was the Fringe Fest show that you did? What was it called?
So it was called Worth. It was a show that centered around a woman on the cusp of retirement, who had just been diagnosed with cancer, and centered around the moral issue of how much a life is worth, and then whether that worth changes if it's yours or someone else's.
Deep.
And sort of the lengths that she'd go to get just one more day past her expectancy. So that was it. So it was it was pretty dark and heavy at times, but not so much. There was humor sprinkled through it and whatnot, and sort of kept it as buoyant as it could. It was well received by fans. Wasn't received at all by critics, in case you were wondering.
Fans other than family, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were. So they were for the most part, they were the comments and feedback I don't want to say ignored, but didn't give as much weight to.
Yeah.
But I did hear feedback from people I did not know, who came to the nights, and they were the ones that meant the most. All the praise and feedback from friends and family is what I need to sort of just to bolster my feelings that night, I guess. But what would get me back in the game is hearing a total stranger say, I thoroughly enjoyed that and am impressed with what you did and enjoyed it. That's what would keep me in the game for sure.
Nice. How many nights did it run?
What did we do? God, this is going back ages. We did 3 weeks, 3 nights each. So what did we do? 9 nights total. So it was a thing. There was lots of last minute changes, cancellations, additions. It was a beast. But I mean, every show is film, TV, theater show. There's always
trouble behind the scenes that no one's ever going to see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and hopefully never see. And if they never see, then you did the job right.
Yeah. What did you learn from it?
God, this is going to sound so hoity-toity, but that I'm more capable than I think I am.
You're going to say that you think I
am. There's depths yet to be explored, and there's you always think you're at the edge and there's no more left to give, but there always somehow is. Yeah.
Do you know that you have an IMDb page?
I don't.
Do you want to see it?
Sure. It's got like 1 credit on it, and the credit's name will be. Oh no, will Worth be on there? I don't know.
Worth is not on there.
No, it's. Oh God, I could give you the title. The Ghost Lady or something.
No.
No, I don't know.
Arcade Reboot.
Oh God, that's not even the one I was thinking of. Whoa. God, what year was that? I was in my
2017, and you played Rodney.
wow. Yeah, Arcade Reboot was a gig I got through Swinburne University, or students of Swinburne who were working on their second years at the time, I think. Final piece for second year. That I learned a lot from that. And I see now as an adult, yeah, I think I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I see now why you need to earn your place. You need to start in the scratchings at the bottom. There's so much you'll learn of just being like self-reliant, knowing as much as you can, because you can guarantee that the person who's supposed to tell you what you're supposed to be doing just won't be there or will forget entirely. Picking who you work with, God, they were also, I mean, I wasn't mature for sure, but they were also young. Oh God. Yeah, what a blast. Arcade Reboot.
I wasn't sure. I was actually going to message you about it earlier in the week and be like, "Hey, did you know you had one?" But I was like, "No, no, no, no. I want to see on the podcast if he actually had one to see what a shock it was."
I think that was one of the things they like reeled me in with, was like, oh, I obviously didn't get paid for it. Not obviously, I didn't get paid for it. But they were like, yep, you'll get like a showreel scene for your showreel, and you'll get an IMBD link reference, whatever it is. And so, I mean, they came good on that. I never got a clip. I never got any sort of finished material out of it. But hey, I got the IMDb credit.
So you should go and update it. Put a photo in there. Put Worth in there. There's something else that I'm thinking you may be able to put in there as well. Can you see the screen?
I can.
Can
you what is this?
Tell me about this?
Yeah, I can. You know, that time my partner had a child and I had a job overseas. I did too.
You did.
I spent a wonderful year of my life in 2018 at the Howard Fine Acting Studio here in Melbourne. Honestly, Alex, sex and dating apps, that's all you're about.
Thumbs up after your clip,
mate. Yeah, right. Yeah, I spent a year there, and that was one of the clips, one of the scenes that we worked on. Michaela was the lovely girl on the scene. She and I worked on that and filmed it. And that was great. That was a fun day. I don't think even I have access to that clip anymore. It's a struggle, because you'll put something down like that, and it's really hard to. I fall prey to this all the time. I'll look at it months down the track and assess that it is now below the level that I'm at, and so I'll put it in the like you're now useless to me pile. I'll make more stuff that's more accurate to like where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But then never do that. So what I do is just lose all the clips and then have nothing else that's left. But that was a fun day.
It looked good. I can't play the audio because it's on YouTube, so I think I'll get in trouble. But it's actually really good. Like, I've never seen you act before, so just being able to watch that, it's really good.
Yeah, that's a lot of the feedback I get. It's funny when people bring up acting with me, because I know I've been so lax in hustling in that department. Then I'm kind of like, and that's like always the biggest thing is like, I've never seen you do it. And it's because I get really shy about it, which is the opposite thing you need to be as an actor. You need to be like self-promoting like a mofo.
Yeah.
But I don't. And so it's one of the things that sort of holds me back, which is what drew me to screenwriting, because I can write and pour everything I have into these 120 pages of A4 paper and then hand it off, and no one ever has to see my face, or I don't know. I feel less judged for the words I put, or I feel more confident about the words I put on a page as opposed to the words that come out of my mouth, which is obviously an issue I need to deal with. But
do you feel confident acting your own things, like your screenplay? Would you act in your own screenplay, or would you prefer other people to do it?
Well, so I did. I had a small part in Worth, and it was, yeah, I'd say it was easier. I don't know. It's always that thing of when you're in it, or when I'm in it, in front of the camera, in front of the audience, it all falls away, and I just fall back to the homework I've done, the work I've done, and trust that it's sort of enough. and then just be in the scene. But it's always the aftermath that the doubt creeps in.
Yeah. How critical are you of other people doing your screenplay, like acting it?
Not at all. I've had very small exposure with other people reading the words I've put down. But at this point in my life, with where I'm at in this career, I see it as such a compliment that someone would pick up what I've put on paper and choose to read that out loud and embrace it and embody it.
Yeah.
Like that's just, it's the biggest compliment I could get as a writer. Young writer, experienced writer, I don't think it matters. It's huge to me anyway.
You're working on something now. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm kind of working on 3 things now. One of them's pitched for TV, which I kind of don't want to touch on.
Yeah.
One's an adaptation of a book. I've got a friend who narrates for audiobooks. And she came to me with this idea that the producer of the audiobook came to her with, and they sort of both had this moment of, wait, you think that? No, yeah, you think that? And they were on the same page, and they said, yeah, this has to be made for screen. And they looked at each other and like, how much writing experience do you have? And they're like, none. And the other one said, none. And Casey is my friend, thought of me and said, do I want to get on board with it? So I'm currently reading through that, and it is juicy. Delicious. It's got this really, I don't know if you've seen many A24 films. No. So notably like Midsummer or like Moonlight. They've always got this, or God, it always escapes me, with Toni Collette. It'll come to me by the end of this. They've always got this really weird, supernaturally creepy vibe to them that sort of like a third of the way in starts to set in, and it just sort of builds and builds and builds. And that's what this is. And so it's really enjoying to read it, it's really fun to read it, but it'll be more fun to throw some ideas around and try and see how much of a creep factor we can get into this. It starts out so peaceful and ends up really bizarre, really strange place.
Nice.
And the third one that I've been working on for a while is tricky because it keeps changing tact. It's effectively, I wanted to tell an end of the world story without ever addressing the end of the world, which is kind of weird. But to have it as like a background character, it's sort of like there, it's unspoken, and we can move on with life. And then instead tell the story of how far, I guess, how we deal with grief, but how much further we can push ourselves if we sort of believe that we can. So it's a story of a guy who's this post-apocalyptic, not like hellfire's raining down, but nothing grows from the ground. It's all sort of doom and gloom. Whose journey needs to take him from point A to point B for whatever reason. And but along that journey, sort of halfway, has that doubt kick in of, I don't know if I can do this. And as unfinished as it is, because it keeps changing, that's kind of all I want to say on it.
Do you think that, just going on what we were just talking about, do you think that idea comes from something inside you that has to do with acting, where it feels good about it?
I think 100%. I think 100%. I think with where I'm at, and I don't know, maybe this will follow through for the rest of my career or hobby. I don't know which one it'll be, but it'll be one of those two. This is all I've got to work with. Everything that I've experienced and everything in here is kind of it. This is the basis. The basis for worth, I feel like I can share, was my own mum, who has, the age of 52, had to retire for medical reasons, and then since then has battled with a whole bunch of sort of illnesses and side effects and specialists and and it just sort of like snowballed. And it's this ongoing sort of like beast that she deals with. And that was and I've told her this, but that was what started Worth. And Worth turned out to be nothing like you look at the end result and you'd never know where it started from. But for sure, I think it all sort of roots in here and then sort of grows from there. So this story was similar in the sense of like, sure, yeah, I guess I didn't actually think about it at the time, but how far am I willing to? I always think that this is the limit. Like I just can't push any further past this. But then lo and behold, there is something that can help and continue you past that point.
Yeah.
Continue me past that point.
Was
Yeah.
writing worth cathartic for you dealing with that situation, even though it changed in the end?
No, weirdly no. It was a leaping off point. And I mean, when I speak about it like this, it probably gives it more weight than perhaps it had. But it was only ever a leaping off point, and from there it became its own creature,
Yeah.
and was its own thing, very separate from any other aspect of my life. So no, weirdly.
And
I
the
didn't,
screenplay you're doing now, why does it keep changing?
For one, I am constantly trying to refine my technique, and so reading books and watching online videos and tutorials and whatnot, and any sort of teachings I can get my hands on, is constantly influencing not just how I write, but how I look at the story as a whole and as a set of compartments. And so I'll read a chapter in the book I'm going to at the moment, and that will shift and sort of turn everything on its head. The big twist I had or have still, that in my eyes was the center point to this entire narrative. I came to realize one day it just can't be. It's ridiculous to have that as the thing. So that got put to the side, and while it's still in it, it now services the main character and his own journey, which makes much more sense. So it's things like that where pieces it's like a chessboard. Pieces are just constantly getting moved around, and then by the end of it, hopefully I'll have a bologna sandwich.
And is it a stage show?
No. So this one I was really excited to do short film format, and try and get it produced myself.
Yeah.
Potentially a directing credit. I don't know. At least a writing credit. Acting maybe. I don't know. I've toyed around with the idea of casting me as the actor, and I think it's a really dangerous one. Well, not dangerous, but I see it now as kind of foolhardy.
Yeah.
Because I'm sort of backing the character into a corner then of me, and I'm just cutting off all sorts of creative avenues. So I'm having to put that idea out of my head and treat it as his own thing, his own character, and see what can grow out of that. So no, short film, but
it might be harder on yourself as well if you're going to do that. I feel like if you were playing it, trying to produce it, maybe direct it a little bit and act in it, you're going to be a lot harder on yourself, and you're going to get burnt out by the end of it.
Yeah. That was one of the lessons I learned from Worth, was with where I'm at the moment. There is such a thing as too many hats. Sure, Clint Eastwood can do it, absolutely, because he spent the last 70 years in the right. But no, with me and where I'm at, there is such a thing as too many hats, and that's and it's hard because I want to do it all, for sure. But when the opportunity's there, having the self-restraint to step back and say, no, this is where I'm drawing my limit, so I can put all of my attention and focus and energy into this one specific thing and get it right, and then rely and trust on others to do their part, so that the end result is something we can all be proud of, as opposed to just like the Chris show.
It's a really mature way of looking at it. It's really good.
Thanks. I mean, I'm over 30 now, so I should have some sort of mature ideas on things.
You'd think so. You would think so.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a bit of a dive into your Instagram.
So can I preface this with my partner runs my Instagram?
That explains why there's lots of really good photos of her and none of you.
Yeah. And all these artistic photos.
Yeah, that's why I was going into it, these are, except for the soda water, gin and cranberry, the rest of them are quite artistic.
Yeah.
A lot of headshots.
Yep, they're there. That's for sure.
There's one in particular that I want. There's some Worth stuff as
There's
well.
Worth. That's my lovely cast.
If I go down a fair way, it's in an alleyway in Melbourne. Oh, actually, it might be on your Facebook and not in here.
I think you're talking about the engagement shoot.
Is that what it was?
It was, but Lauren and I were not engaged at the time.
No, I'm not. This is what I'm talking about. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, so I worked at Woolworths Liquor for some years when I was around the age of 20.
So that's not where I thought the story was going to start, but yeah, go.
And working there was a young girl who fancied herself a special effects and makeup artist who wanted to break into the industry. I've got some cool photos on my phone of like ripped open like hands that she did on the back of my hand and all sorts of crazy things. And she did this really cool undead Angus Young look on me for a Halloween we went out to in the city one year, which was fun. But this was a photo shoot she did for her credits.
Okay.
And she had this weird take on these weirdly formal ballet style characters who were grotesquely disfigured in some sort of sense. So this was her photo shoot for her credits.
Oh, I thought it would have been some kind of acting or something.
No, it was just we all worked together and were friends, and she just needed people to stand in.
Nice.
Yeah, but that was a fun day.
Engagement
that was a more fun day, I would say. Yep, that was. You wouldn't know it, but we're surrounded by 5 orangutans, 3 of which had their children with them, and about 50 other people who were all as silent as the grave because there were orangutans nearby.
So you didn't get the big cheering celebration claps? Nothing?
Nope. There were maybe all the 5 people who actually saw the proposal because everyone else was focused on what they should have been looking at, just the orangutans.
Amazing. Engagement party?
Engagement party, yes. Yeah, that was a fun night.
And this was when you brought your house, I'm assuming?
Yes, that is where I sit.
And this guy?
A cat. It's funny going through acting classes, and the one thing that sort of gets reiterated throughout all of them, well, there are a couple of things, but one of them in particular is that you need to eventually get to the point in your acting, and you need to get there kind of quickly, where you can say one word, but it can be so charged with 24 pages of history and backstory that you've given it, and you've ingrained into your very being. So when you say that one word, and when I say like our cat or Klaus, it is there's a 1.5 years of health issues and vet visits and fighting with the animal shelter that we got him from. It's a very charged history, but we love that boy.
I don't know anyone that has a cat quite like Klaus. I know when we play D&D and stuff, and then suddenly Klaus has to go to the toilet or take a tablet or has a new cone around his neck or
yeah.
Wow.
We've been through several cones. He spent 1 year of his life, no more than a year of his life in a cone. We're finally at the point now where he might be out of it. Hopefully he's on vaccine. So now we need to inject our cat once every 3 weeks with this antihistamine vaccine. He's a funny old boy, but he's ours for like 12 years now. So, you know.
Do you ever regret buying him from a shelter?
No, God, no. I'm allergic to cats. So it was a weird road of me fighting Lauren on whether we'd get a cat. And I kept saying no. And then I entertained her one day and said we'd go down to look at the shelter because she finally found a ginger cat. And that's all she ever wanted was a ginger cat. So we went to have a look at him, and they opened the cage up, and I picked him up and held him. And I was like, okay, we can take this one. He was like, just like in my arms, into my heart, and out the door. So no, Klaus is the best. Yes. So this is my profile picture on Facebook.
I don't actually. No, I don't think it is. I got
No.
it from Facebook, I think, but it's. I don't think it's your profile picture.
At one point, it was because someone mistakenly thought it was me. I don't know. And then I laughed at it. And then we had this joke about why is he wearing two sunglasses? And from then we just lost it.
So
And
you didn't take this
yeah.
photo?
No, sadly, I did not.
I thought
Nicolas
you
Cage
took
is
the
not.
photo.
No, Nicolas Cage is not one of the celebrities I have seen in the world.
Oh, what celebrities have you seen in the world?
I've seen Jeffrey Rush,
Yeah.
which was perhaps the highlight. I've seen Colin Lane here at the Malthouse Theatre in Melbourne.
I'm not
I don't know
including
if you
any
know.
ones you've actually gone to see their shows. That does not count. You're aware of
No,
this,
no,
right?
no, 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 no. What's his name? Ty Burrell? No. From Silicon Valley, the big hairy guy, the comedian. He does stand up. His name escapes me, but I love his work. It'll come to me. A couple. Actually, I had Owen Wilson walk into the Bose store that I was working in Vancouver, which was kind of interesting.
Nice. Did you imitate him while he was in there? Can you do it? Can you?
We all did it in unison.
Can you do an Owen Wilson?
He walked in, and instead of the doorbell buzzer normally goes off, but we all just went, "Wow!" And I see you've got Barney on the screen.
Yeah, your newest addition to the family.
Yeah, who has changed some since that photo.
Yes.
He has. He's changed some, but yeah, having a golden retriever, he's like the stereotypical golden retriever. I don't think they actually differ from one dog to the next. We speak to other owners of golden retrievers, and all the stories we have are mimicked by the stories that they have. They're just the goofiest dog who love life and need to be around people constantly.
How do Klaus and Barney get along?
Klaus gets treated like royalty because whenever Barney goes near him, he bows his head. And it's a 50% chance of whether Klaus will randomly walk up to Barney and swipe at his head and then walk off just to make sure Barney knows who's boss.
Really?
Yeah, but Klaus is slowly getting there. We have hope. We have hopes. They're probably not high, but we have hopes that they'll get along sometime soon, maybe the next year or two.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And there is a saying called "celebrate your power." What do you think your power is? What do you think you can celebrate about yourself that's your power?
I think my power is passing on smiles to other people.
It's a pretty good power.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not going to defeat evil, but it's a pretty good power.
It's definitely not. If the neo-Nazis come back in a big way, I've got nothing to offer. But
just smiles, just real big smiles.
Yeah. What do you think your power is?
I don't know. I didn't think that I would get reversed asked this question.
Spotlight's on you.
I know. I don't actually know what my power would be. I think it would be along the same lines of what you were talking about, but it's trying to find the positive in everything instead of the negative. So trying to just look at that and go, like, something positive out of it, I've taken something positive from it, instead of just concentrating on the negative continuously. I think I do that pretty well.
That rings true for the Alex that I know.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Of course, I'm talking about the Alex that I played in that clip earlier.
Yeah. I wish I could play that for people. I really do. It was so good. I want to do, just to finish it off, a little bit of a speed dating round. I'm going to ask you 20 questions, and pretty much just the first thing that comes to your head.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
All right. Do you prefer to reverse or drive forward into a car park?
Reverse.
Favorite color?
Blue.
First CD you brought?
Michael Jackson. Thriller.
Favorite season?
Autumn.
What do you have for breakfast?
Toast. Usually with Nutella.
Nutella?
Yeah. I've got a sweet tooth, mate.
Butter and Nutella, or just Nutella?
No, just Nutella.
Yeah, okay.
Butter and Nutella?
I've seen it done before. It weirds me out. Don't worry. Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Dogs.
Dogs. Do you exercise?
Not as much as I'd like.
Invite anyone dead or alive to dinner. Who is it?
James Spader.
Favorite thing about yourself?
Ah,
Come on. Anything.
don't know.
You can say your hair if you want. Whatever.
My blue eyes.
Perfect. Who's your hero?
That's a good question. First person that comes to mind. I don't know.
That's fun. Last song or band you listen to?
The Jungle Giants.
What makes you cry?
The end of a good narrative.
Favorite thing you cook?
Chicken stir fry.
What do you drink on a night out?
Rum and Coke.
If you could be anyone else for a day, who would it be?
Ooh. Obama.
Oh.
I've got to know if there's aliens.
That actually works really well to a question later. Do you call or text?
Text.
Title of your autobiography?
Chris, the life he should have lived.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
What makes you laugh?
Friends.
Oh, and did you have fun on our date today?
So much fun.
Oh, thank you. That is
This
it.
has been great.
Thank you for spending time with me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more.
Thank you for giving me a soapbox to stand on.
Right. It's a pleasure. Anytime. We'd love to have you back.
No.
All right.
It's been real.
That's it for us. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.